Welcome back to the Lowe Down, the podcast that takes you inside every battle strategy and shocking moment from the foxes of the floor. I'm Zach, aka Trees, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host
Devin B. Road Trip here, and trust me when I say we have a lot to break down from episode 6.
That's right, and to help us break it all down, we have Alex, the contestant who dueled 4 times in one episode. Took
Hey,
part in one of the
everyone.
most unforgettable battles against Ira and Real Housewives. And Alex, welcome to Low Down.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
We are excited. Now, America, we gotta let you know. We fought to have this episode for you. We didn't know that this episode was actually going to come to fruition. Zach got sick. I decided to take children to Disney World because I have to go on road trips, and Terry tried to hold it down by herself, and now Terry is doing something, and so we've gone all around the world and back again.
We need search and rescue for that guy.
Search and rescue, but we had to celebrate. We had to talk about episode 6. It was just one of those special kind of things that we could not keep on the shelf. Let me break it down by I don't even have to break down the numbers. 4. Alex, that is a crazy thing you did. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row on purpose. Not that you went back to the floor and got challenged again. You had to go back up. No, you willingly decided to go on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4 times.
And the drama behind it, well, I'm not going to touch Housewives. I'm not going to touch Housewives. And then you hit everybody with, I've been telling a lie.
That's the only way to do a Housewives category is in the most dramatic fashion possible. And I just really wanted to make my mark, so I'm just so happy that I got that chance to do that.
Well, you made your mark. I will say that there's a lot of talking on the interwebs about a lot of things when they see, but I will say that probably the most positive the entire internet has been towards anything ever happening was the fact that you stayed up there, you attacked, and then just like took down Real Housewives. I don't know if any of them were missed. Like it was phenomenal.
I gotta brag for a second, and Devin, you're the numbers guy. I did not pass a single time in any of those 4 duels, and I only passed once in my duel in episode 2. So that's got to be some kind of record. Only 1 pass in 5 duels. Like I'm just gonna put that on the limb that's the best passing record of anybody of all time.
I'm gonna have to check the record books now. I'm looking at it. I'm like, yeah, here we go. Kimberly passed a bunch. Jamila passed a bunch. Well, Mr. I don't pass, I don't get tired. So I have to break it down because we have 2 perspectives, Alex, that we can really interject.
Okay.
Zach, my fellow co-host, is already gone. He's watching this from his home.
Yep.
I'm watched it from the floor where we see decisions being made. Okay, we have stars with stars. We see that going like, okay, this is a real simple competition going on. Bradley goes up and he loses toiletries. And we see Kimberly going after Alex. Going to get the BBL. Going to make it on vacation. And natural history comes up. And as a person on the floor, I'm like, okay, it's business as usual. And then did you always know that if I get chosen again, I'm going to pull off this move, or was it spur of the moment?
This was my strategy. I always knew that if I could have a time boost, I would go after Ira. And then a couple of things made me nervous. So in episode 2, you need three to get a time boost. In episode 2, I only felt confident that I could win 2 duels. So that wasn't enough to get the time boost. So I had to go back to the floor. But then I realized that people were scared of me. I didn't realize that go at that point, even though I had done my best to intimidate everyone. And at the pre-show meeting, I wore my Jeopardy champion t-shirt and stuff like that. just to like kind of like scare a little people. But then I was like, oh no, it actually worked a little well. No one was going to challenge me. And so here I am sitting here with natural history, seeing Housewives right in front of me and knowing that no one's going to pick me. And then someone else is going to do a Housewives duel. And it's not going to be as good as if Ira and I do it. And so I had the strategy, but I had to make it happen. And the way that I made it happen was I had to convince someone to challenge me, and luckily, Kimberly was amenable to that argument. Um, she really wanted to win her duel in toiletries, and she was there to have fun and have a great time and look good while doing it. And she did all of those things. She won a duel. She showed off her skills, and I think she was like, you know what? I've had my fun. Let's do it, duel against Alex. But I had to make natural history not seem that scary. I had to make it seem like she would get a lot of the questions right, and she did. And so, but that was the first step. If she hadn't done that, then I'd probably just be sitting here with natural history, watching someone else do Real Housewives, being sad about it, not getting famous, not going on a big run, all of that stuff. So that was step one. But once I had that in place, everything else proceeded like exactly how I had planned it, like in the order and exactly like how I had planned it.
Zach,
What
are you
what made you
interpreting
not
that?
want to go after Brian?
Um, so I didn't go after Brian for a few reasons. So one, I was tired. Four duels is a lot. And I mean, I had been on stage probably for like an hour at that point. There was a bathroom break in between there, but like I was tired. I also kind of thought I was going to lose to Ira. I was willing to take that risk.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I fully expected to be in the finals, if not to win the whole floor. That was like kind of my goal coming onto it. But I was like, you know what? I can't pass up this chance at Ira, even if that's not the most strategic. It's the thing that I just wanted. You just wanted something. And so, but because I beat Ira, and actually kind of like by a lot, I I was zapped. My adrenaline, I mean, I was shaking. They cut a lot of that out, but I actually like swore, like I can't effing believe it or something like that. And like I was drained. So that's like one reason. And then the other reason is my strategy was never to go after the 20K. In seasons one and season two, if you ever earned the 20K, you did not win the show. And I feel like I am in a good position to actually win the show. And so I was absolutely willing to sacrifice that. Um, so that was another reason. So I'm tired, the 20K thing, and then also just like there's no guarantees. Brian's good. I would have been good at rodeo. I grew up going to the Houston rodeo. I felt good about it. Um, but it just didn't quite make enough sense to me. And then after that, I think I would have had to go for two more duels to get another time boost. And I was done. I wanted to go out on a high note and not risk minimizing the glory of what I had done this episode.
Yeah, Zach, because you missed it. We've been talking since day one of this podcast, and Alex, I know you listen to this podcast about how people are making friendships. We made allegiances, and certain corners had certain things going on. And I remember looking over in your corner. It was like, oh, look at the besties over there. They are friends to the end. All I had really was Terry because I knew the people around me were coming after me, and I was like, Terry, I just won't come after you. But I'm literally looking at this man is taking out every single one of his friends, every single one of them, back to back to back to back, and I'm like, this is good TV, but this man is a beast. I am a little nervous. I love history. Alex knows this about me now. I love history, and I would have loved to challenge him in history or poetry. But after that, I was like, that man is cutthroat. I don't want any parts of what he has to sell. Oh, what was your perspective from home, Zach? Because I would like to hear what you thought as you watched this battle going down.
So the one thing that I will say is that it's probably the first time that someone actually aggressively took initiative. So at home, well, I think it was out watching. I go to a bar to watch it with a bunch of people that I know, but everyone was cheering him on because it's the first time that like someone has actually said, "I'm going to stay and play. I'm going after this person. I'm going after this person." They got the time boost and kept going. So I think that was probably the biggest thing to see, and it kind of sparked a thought process of how would you change the rules, or what would you change to kind of encourage people to stay up there and play? Like, how could you actually encourage that? Because that's the one thing Rob's always like, "You sure you don't want to stay and play?" Like, everyone wants people to stay up there, but it's the safe play to go back on the floor. So, I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you think would be, that motivating factor to stay up there?
Well, for me, I think being paid per duel would be nice. Now, again, not necessarily full motivation, but if I got like 1 or 2K per duel, that would have been 5 or 10K right there, right? So that
Yeah.
would have been nice. And I think there are other opportunities, and I am sure, just as they came up with the time boost and audio duels and association
Mhm.
duels in seasons 2 and 3, I am sure they will come up with something else. My pitch that I made up is I think if you win a certain number of duels, you should be allowed to switch spots on the floor with anyone you want that has the same or fewer pieces than you. And then so that way, because a lot of my favorite categories were in the opposite corner. So if I had won like 3 duels here, I could have traveled across, switched with someone, and then I could have won like 4 or 5 more duels over there in my mind because of the category and my strength in those. I think that would be really fun. I think that could encourage some play. I think there's a lot of great ideas on like the internet and on Reddit, but I do think there needs to be like something else. A time boost is really great to have as like security and
Mhm.
protection. And I wouldn't have gone up against Ira without it, but I didn't need it. And this season, I think there's only been 1 duel that's been within 5 seconds. So it's not actually a good tool in that regard, but it's a good tool for like bluffing and for like power. And
Mhm.
that's cool. And I support the time boost. But yeah, I think that next level of more money or some kind of like weird twist or something could incentivize you to stay up even longer.
Yeah. I do think that the time boost has been utilized the way it should be utilized. Like, it was used for what? For math and then for Real Housewives. I think at this point
It
it has
wasn't
been.
it wasn't used for Matt actually.
No, that was
Was
straight
it?
up. No, that was straight up.
Oh. I
Yeah,
thought it was used
because
before for something.
yeah. So if I just go
Logan
through
might have
like
used it, but I don't remember how. But she
Okay.
might have used it. Yeah.
All right.
because
That
thinking of what you said, Alex, of just the use of the time boost and its effectiveness, and will it really have helped anybody? So I'm looking at my notes from episode 1. The closest duel was 6 seconds, so maybe 5 seconds might have helped here and there. Episode 3, 4 seconds was the closest duel.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, that would have definitely been an advantage. I think I should write everything in the same notebook, but I do not because I'm a scatterbrained teacher. I think another one was as close as like 2 seconds, where really that was the difference between. So we have noticed that when the time boost is used, you might not necessarily need it because you don't. I would say this, and it just came to my mind. Time boosts will come into play in an all-star season where everyone knows their competition
Hmm.
and they know what they're dealing with. So Alex knows me at this point. I don't think Alex would challenge me in a history thing without first thinking, do I want to use a time boost or not?
mhm.
And
Valid.
I would probably do the same because I understand where he's coming from. I'm not approaching a lot of people that I've seen now. Like when Brian started on his run, he's an actor. What does he know? Apparently a lot. The
Yeah.
man knows a lot. A lot about a whole lot of things. And we soon we effed around and found out that you might not want to challenge him. And while there's other people who we didn't get a chance. Like, I didn't know Shane was a content creator about the ocean, but I was willing to take the risk
I,
or
I
challenging
really
them on
wanted to
that.
take that one so bad. I was a coastal geology major in college for 2 years. So I feel like I could have given him a run for his money in that one.
Wish you had, man.
So while you were on the floor, Alex, you've already dueled before. At this point, you've won 5 duels, right? Before, and Zach, he is right. He was literally shaking on the stage, and I was like, "Yeah, that man's done. He's not coming back." You are in the corner, like you sewn up a corner in the best way. I think you have the most strategic. You and Chef Steve had the best setups as far as corners and being protected by other people.
Yeah.
At that point, who did you think was going to give you the biggest run for your money?
Is the question who did I think could challenge me in poetry, or who do I think maybe could win the season? Because I
Who's
think
the
those are
best
different
bet against
answers.
you for the season? I think.
Well, let's go. Let's take it.
Oh.
Who do you think could have beat you in poetry at that point?
So I hate to sound cocky, but I like don't really. But like I really after I went back to the floor in this, after this run, I truly and deeply and like believed it. I said, "Oh, I think I'm going to win the season. I don't think I will lose this season." Because poetry was not a category that people wanted, and I was also protected by some other like gnarly categories, and people were scared of me. And so I truly at this point wasn't intimidated by anyone. The slight caveat was just a general wanting to see what David Madden would do. So I had said earlier, I was on Jeopardy. I won twice. In the pantheon of Jeopardy winners, I'm actually not a very good winner. I won like low amounts, and like we could talk about that another day. David is one of the 10 greatest Jeopardy players of all time. And so I was aware of that fact. And so that intimidated me in a general sense, but I didn't know his capabilities. And also I personally didn't know him. I was not familiar with his name or that he had done that. So I didn't get a chance to see him play. So I had a general anxiety about him. But other than that, I honestly kind of thought I was gonna win the show, and maybe I do. Um, Another question in terms of run for your money, I also did think that if I weren't to win the show, the person best positioned to win the show would be Tony. I was so incredibly impressed with her. We stood next to each other for the vast majority of the show, to this point, and so we were talking strategy, and also she was fast. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 39. I look like I'm 70, but I'm 39, and she's 23. So her brain hasn't like
Yeah.
finished developing it. You know what I mean? Like she's like lightning fast, and I was like, oh, she is going to give a run for people's money. I was excited about an opportunity to face off with her at some point. Um, but yeah, so that's basically it. It was in my mind it was going to be me or Tony, and then I had general anxiety about David, and then I wasn't scared of anyone else. Sorry, sorry.
No, no. It's no problem because when you haven't seen people duel, oh, Terry mentioned it the other day. Our season of the floor, a weird dynamic happened. I'm not sure where it shifted, where we did have a bunch of people decide to stay and play.
Mhm.
And what ended up happening is that the middle of the floor didn't really get touched. And so you didn't know what the middle of the floor was really capable of because the middle of the floor never saw any action, which probability wise, and based on season 1 and season 2, the middle saw all the action all the time. And on the edges, you were good. But this season, it was like, okay, it's staying over there, it's staying over there. So it's hard to make a name. And Zach, I will tell you this after he did what he did, a shift in the atmosphere happened where we
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is a different game. You need to be aggressive or you're going to be eaten alive. And when I saw him do what he did, I did want to go after you for poetry, but I didn't want to go through the crown to get to you. I
Mhm.
was like, gross. I don't want that, or go through anatomy to get to you. I was like, no. So I'm like, he's protected in a way that I don't want anything to do with that. Let me look elsewhere on there. But I would say, as a person on the floor, I was like, okay, I'm ready to play. I don't know why it hasn't landed on me, but I'm ready to play. I am ready to play. And you're right, Alex. Why would I intimidate? I never got to play up to that
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Never got to play at all. And so you go back down to the floor. Oh, I forgot who's next, Zach. Who's after he went back to the floor? Did it land on
Crayon?
James? Crayon's last.
Okay.
Might have been
It was either
James.
the ocean duel or the space duel in some order.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk about Sharif in the space duel just briefly? I want to give Sharif his flowers because he said that day that his anxiety was at an all-time high. And he was like, my greatest fear is that I'm going to forget everything's on there. And so I know, Alex, you've been doing a good job. And I know I try to step in. But I want to say, America, he was doing his best. He does work for NASA. He was battling his nerves. He literally was in tears earlier in the day about
Mhm.
his anxiety and his fear. And people don't realize how difficult it is until you're up there. When you see an apple, you know it's an apple, and your mind refuses to let you say apple
Yeah.
up there. And so I just want to say, Sharif, we love you and everything like that, because I know we try to have him. And then James challenged oceanography. I really wanted James to win. I will reveal the reasons why later on in the episodes. But I really wanted James to win, and I was a little upset that he lost, and I really wanted Shane to stay up there a little while longer. But people can't have their dreams and hopes accomplished at all. So, Alex, what would be your highlight of the night? I know you broke down your strategy, but what was the absolute highlight when you realized you didn't get any Real Housewives from Dallas on your screen?
Yeah, I will say I did know the one that Ira passed on. There are some that I would have passed on. There are some housewives in the Pantheon I didn't know, but I did know that one. She's not a great person. She's not someone that like we should be happy that we know, but she is a known quantity. Um, I'm trying to decide if beating him was better, but I think what was honestly the coolest thing was my whole little villain monologue. Like I think that was like my whole like and I don't know where that came from. Like none of this is scripted. I wasn't told what to say. I just started like orating and like I had all these like dramatic beats and like, I've been lying to like what? Like where did that come from? I have no idea, but I am so happy that happened. I think it's the coolest thing ever. It's all over social media right now, which I love, even though I'm the one putting out there mostly, but like it's still all out there. I think that was definitely just like that's like a life highlight. That monologue was cooler than me winning Jeopardy twice. Like that 1 minute and because I've watched this video of myself like 100 times, like because I'm full of myself, watch Rob Lowe's face because he was very like professional the whole time and like really impressive like how he like was like good at like staying focused and all that. He looked gobsmacked. Like I like he looked he was like he was like his he was like shocked and like that's like so cool. Like I like made Rob Lowe speechless. Like that's I don't know, it's just fun. That's just like a cool fun little thing.
Well, you did that. Like if
Yeah.
you look back at that, I'm a background extra at this point, and they just cut to me for facial expressions, and that's where I'm literally have my hands on
You
my
got the
head,
yeah, exactly.
looking like what just happened here. what did just happen here? And I've already stated on this podcast that Alex is my winner's pick. I'm not spoiling anything. He was my winner's pick based on the episodes that we had on the quarter mark because I heard the rumblings. I didn't see the Jeopardy shirt. I wish I saw the Jeopardy shirt. So I didn't know anything about the Jeopardy shirt. But someone whispered like, "Oh, David was on Jeopardy, but Alex was on Jeopardy too." And Zach, I would look at you. It's like, I think we did too well on our quiz. We should have been on season 2. Why are we here? So, how did you get involved with the floor? Why did you want to be on the floor? Because how did you go from Jeopardy to this game show? Because this is your third game show, America. This is the third. We read his biography. We went on this Wikipedia page, and this is his third game show. How did you end up here on the floor?
So a quick shout out also to Mark, who was the original Star Trek guy, the older gentleman. He was also a Jeopardy champion from the 80s too. So yeah, so that's a fun fact. I was on Jeopardy almost on March 20th, 2015. So 10 years ago this week, I was on Jeopardy. And since then I had wanted to go on more things. You know, I had applied for a couple other shows. The pandemic kind of stopped one of them, and then one of them I kind of blew my final audition, honestly, when I got on Millionaire, and I knew I left that audition being like, oh no, they're not gonna pick me. But I've always been a game show fan my whole life. Like I would watch Game Show Network, like in the summers and like, you know, all that stuff. And so I wanted to be on something. I wanted to be on something. I needed it to be like cool, and I needed it to be like bigger in some ways than Jeopardy, you know? And so I just watched this first season of The Floor I had heard about, and I was like, oh, let me check this out. After the first episode, I was hooked of season 1. And actually there's like and I'm gonna repost this like later in the season, but there was I made a social media post about it saying, hey, there's this new show called The Floor. I'm pretty sure if I went on, I would win. Like, and I wrote that after seeing one episode before I even like knew about casting, right? And so I just kept like Googling when they were doing auditions, and luckily at a certain point they did, and I sent off my thing, and I think I got a call back the next day or the day after, and then from there it just kind of like took off. But I was like so excited. You know, at the time I didn't know we were going to Ireland. You know, that was so cool. I was expecting it to be, you know, LA like everything else. Just I truly didn't expect the friendships. I do think that's the real prize of the show. But yeah, I approached it as a fan, and I just like was so into it, and I understood the concept, and you know, I understood it would be like easier in some ways than like Jeopardy, but like harder in a lot of other ways, and the pressure and just the having to be really well rounded, having to know about Star Trek and the Housewives and a rodeo and
Yeah.
math, you know, like all at the same time. Like that's like a tall order, you know. And the I think I'm good at strategy, and I've always wanted to like be on Survivor and stuff. And honestly, like Survivor, if you're listening, like maybe this is my time to shoot that shot. But I never had a chance to like be sneaky and stuff like that. And I always thought I'd be like good at like being like sneaky on TV. And so I thought The Floor could be a good opportunity to be sneaky too. So all of those reasons are why I wanted to do it.
We're so happy that you were there with us.
Yeah. I do want to say something about the whole being sneaky thing because I have something to admit that happened this episode.
Okay.
So when I was called up there, and I kind of said like I have a mutual agreement to not go after Chef because of we were mutually scared of each other. Um, we had been talking on the side, and he's like, "There's no way I can take you on trees. There's no way you can take me on Chef." So we were kind of like we're at a stalemate. And my original plan was if I got the airport codes, I was at least a little safer. But uh, during I guess before the show where I went out, I may or may not have gotten Clarion up to taking on Chef. So my goal, and one of the reasons I probably did not do phenomenal in Derby, was I did a lot of studying of boy bands. I was hoping that Clarion would take out Chef. If he didn't take out Chef, he would take out Chef's category.
Yeah.
And then I would be ready to take out the Chef, because I felt like, Alex, you were obviously a beast on the other side of the floor, but you were so far away from me. You were not even, in my peripherals. So
100%.
at that point, I'd never heard Megan utter a word, and I knew Chef. I mean, Chef having TV chefs, there's no way he's going to fail at that one. So I kind of may or may not have pushed
Set
Clarion
Clarion up.
in that direction.
You set him
That's
up.
awesome. No,
I
and
felt
that's
feel
what
bad
people
about
should
that,
do.
but
That's what people should do. Like, I think there's so much of this stuff, like the quiet conversations I had with Kimberly are what actually got me to do this thing.
yeah,
I had a side deal with Clint. I did not want classic cars. It was the one category that I would have been embarrassed on, like where America would have like yelled at me for. And so I was, but I didn't tell Clint that I'd be bad at the category. I was like, hey, you, me, final two, let's do it. It's never shown on the screen. Potentially we will have to face each other off at some point, for some reason. But I made those little plans, and in making those little plans, you start to feel like a little safer, you
yeah,
know. It was also funny, like I remember Emily, you see her a lot on this episode, being like super scared of me coming for her. Like, I wasn't gonna come for her, and I felt so bad because she was like so scared about it, and I was like, you're in a weird, you're behind me, like I can't, it wouldn't make sense. But yeah, all these people, it's really about the side conversations is really helpful, I think,
yeah,
the strategy.
I think one thing I do enjoy about this show, and that isn't get been discussed about, and that's why I love that we have the lowdown, is the meta of the game. What is your strategy based upon what's happening? Because first we always say the less amount of duels you play, the least likely you are to lose. Therefore, that's the winning strategy. Duel once, go back to the floor, and then cross your fingers. But what happens when you are selected at the top of the episode, the middle of the episode, the back of the episode? 20K is right by you. 20K is very far from you. The time boost and the micro strategies that have been evolving, especially in our season. I was like, the game isn't what I thought it was going to be, because now there's several games. Brian's property is pretty sizable, but it wasn't huge. Like I've seen it on season 1 and season 2, where you're like, there's clearly a well, and that's going to be the well. No, there's a blob here, a blob there, a block there, a block there. And people are like on their little islands, where you almost felt like Safat was good this episode. And she has
yeah,
a pretty sizable territory. No one even considered going down there.
yeah.
And looking at, and I just say my predictions based upon while I was sitting on the floor, I was reminded of a wonderful hip hop song that said things ain't the same for gangsters. As soon as Alex came back down on the floor, and I was like, this has completely blown my mind. And I say you're right. This has been a game of friendships. This has been weird because my wife doesn't know. Like, I talk to y'all almost every day. Like, it's funny. Literally
Yeah.
every day there's a conversation going on that I'm semi involved in. And that's all because of the time that we had on this floor, this formally that we formed. And it's just amazing. Um, Alex already said that he's his own MVP pick. Zach, do you want to make a new MVP pick for this
Uh,
episode?
to to say Alex isn't a beast on the floor, just like the beast that's on your lap right now. Like it's hard to argue that I think that whole side had a lot of powerful people. You talked about like the you got 2 Jeopardy winners, you got Brian over there. You've got a lot of people that are going to be able to put up their dukes against anyone else on the floor. But I think there's still so many people in the center and kind of on that right side that haven't really gone yet. I mean, my man Ted has not been featured yet. He had punctuation, right? He's scary, period. So you never know what could happen.
Oh my goodness, you always got a good pun to hold us down. Well, my dog is getting extra friendly with me right now. I don't know what's going on. But Alex, thank you for having this conversation with us, exclusive. I'm definitely a fan. This solidified. I was already a fan. This solidified my fandom of you, and you may or may not have directly affected my strategy going forward in this game if they will only let me play. Zach, they're intimidated by road trips, man. They don't want any parts of me. They like
It's fine. They can take a hike.
Come at me, bro. That's all I'm saying. Come at me, bro. Go ahead, Zach. Take us away.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Lowdown. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
And drop a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. We want to hear your thoughts. So send in your questions to the Lowdown on the floor. That's Lowdown, spelled Lowe, like Rob Lowe. And he's a Pisces, fellow Pisces in the building. Happy birthday, Rob, at gmail.com. And you might hear them on the next episode. And like and subscribe. We want to make this episode go major. We want to make sure that Alex is famous again, not only for Jeopardy, not only for Cash Cab, but also for the floor.
Thank you guys very much for that. Yeah, appreciate that.
Oh, no problem.